The soul takes the color of its thoughts. Marcus Aurelius wrote this in the 2nd century. 1800 years later, the Apostle Paul would say something remarkably similar. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. 2 traditions. 1 truth. There's one time of the day that most people completely waste. It's not in the morning when you're rushing around. It's not in the afternoon when you're busy. It's at night, specifically the last 5 to 10 minutes before you fall asleep. Neuroscience confirms something the Stoics and the scriptures have always known. What you put into your mind immediately before sleep has a disproportionate impact on who you become. Your conscious mind shuts down, but your subconscious spends the next 7 to 8 hours processing, consolidating, and building. If you go to bed anxious, your mind spends the night reinforcing neural circuits of fear. If you go to bed with intention, discipline, and surrender to God, something different happens. Today, we'll explore how the last minutes of your day determine the first minute of the next, and how a simple practice, part Stoic, part scriptural, can reprogram not just your thoughts, but your entire life. If this resonates, sign up now and stay until the end. I'll share the exact protocol you can start tonight. Daniel, 34, project manager, married, 2 children. Christian, goes to church, prays before meals. On paper, everything works. But every night, the same routine, scrolling through Instagram for 40 minutes, watching news that raises your blood pressure, comparing your life to curated feeds. Finally, you turn off the lights at 11:47 p.m., mind racing, body tense. He wakes up at 6:15 a.m., already defeated. He grabs his phone before getting out of bed. The day begins reactive, not intentional. He thinks the problem is work stress. It's not. The problem is that Daniel is programming his subconscious to be anxious every night and wondering why he wakes up feeling restless. Your brain cycles through REM and non-REM sleep. During deep sleep, the hippocampus, the memory center, transfers information from temporary to permanent storage. This process is called memory consolidation. But here's the kicker. Your brain prioritizes consolidating emotionally significant memories before you sleep. Studies from Harvard Medical School show that memories accompanied by emotion are consolidated 2 to 3 times more efficiently. Simply put, what you feel in the last 15 minutes before bed receives preferential processing all night. If you fill that time with anger, envy, or worry, you are literally training your brain for toxic patterns. Seneca practiced something called the nightly examination. Every day before bed, he would review, where did I lose emotional control? Where did I act virtuously? How can I improve tomorrow? He didn't do it to punish himself, he did it to calibrate. Marcus Aurelius was even more direct. The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. He understood that thoughts are seeds. At night, you choose which ones to plant. Psalm 4:4 says, when you are on your beds, examine your hearts and be still. Psalm 4:8, in peace I will both lie down and sleep, for you alone, O Lord, make me dwell in safety. Philippians 4:8, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Paul isn't giving wellness advice. He's giving instructions on how to program the mind for alignment with God. The summary is clear. Stoicism teaches self-mastery. Scripture teaches surrender. Together they teach transformation. Think of your mind as a garden. Throughout the day, seeds fall everywhere, good and bad. Stress, joy, frustration, gratitude. It all mixes together. At night, when you lie down, the soil is prepared. The question is, will you let any seed germinate? Or will you intentionally choose which ones to water? Most people don't choose. They go to bed with the last thing they saw on their phone still flashing in their mind. Tomorrow they wake up and don't understand why they feel empty, irritated, or without purpose. But there is an alternative. I'm going to share what I call the gate protocol, based on Seneca, Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, and Pauline writings. First layer, noise reduction. 2 minutes. 30 minutes before bed, leave your phone in the bedroom, not airplane mode. Off. Why? Because you need a physical boundary. Willpower isn't enough. Stoicism is practical. You remove temptation. This is not radical asceticism. It is wisdom. Proverbs 4:23 says, "Above all else, guard your heart, for it is the wellspring of life." Then, controlled breathing. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 6 seconds, 3 cycles. This activates the parasympathetic nervous system. Translation: you go from fight or flight to rest and digest. It's not transcendental meditation, it's biology. Second layer, Stoic review. 3 minutes, grab a notebook. 3 questions. Where was I virtuous today? Courage, justice, temperance, wisdom. Where was I reactive? Anger, impatience, judgment. What is in my control tomorrow? Write a line or 2 for each. Epictetus said, "Happiness and freedom begin with a clear understanding of one principle. Some things are within our control, others are not." This review isn't for self-flagellation, it's for calibration. You're adjusting your moral compass before your brain begins to consolidate the day. Third layer, delivery and declaration. 2 minutes. This is where Stoicism meets faith. You took the exam. Now hand it in. Lord, I have done what was within my control. I surrender to you what was not. Renew my mind as I rest. Amen. Romans 12:2 is not passive. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind is an active command, but you don't do it alone. You cooperate with God. Then 2 statements, not of desire, but of identity. I am disciplined in small choices. I choose peace over noise. Why do affirmations work? Because identity precedes behavior. You don't act differently and then become a different person. You declare who you are, and your brain begins to align behavior with identity. Now comes the remarkable part. While you sleep, your brain doesn't just consolidate memories, it solves problems. Studies show that REM sleep improves creativity and insight by up to 33%. But there is something deeper going on. If you sleep with your mind full of worry, your brain spends the night simulating disaster scenarios. If you sleep with intention and commitment, your brain simulates solutions. Proverbs 3:24 says, "When you lie down, you will not be afraid. Your sleep will be sweet." It's not a guarantee of the absence of problems. It's a promise of the presence of peace. That night, Daniel decides to give it a try. He puts the phone down in the kitchen. He goes upstairs to his bedroom. He takes an old notebook from the drawer. Breathe. 4-4-6. 3 times. He writes, virtuoso. I didn't react when my colleague was passive-aggressive in the meeting. Reactive. I spoke harshly to my daughter when she spilled juice. Control tomorrow, prepare the presentation. I can't control the client's response. He stops, looks at the lines. It's not deep, it's not poetic, but it's honest. Close your eyes. Lord, I did what I could today. Forgive where I failed. Renew my mind. Tomorrow I will begin again. Then, in a low voice, I am disciplined in small choices. I choose peace over noise. He feels nothing spectacular, no surge of emotion, just stillness. Lie down, turn off the light, and for the first time in months, he sleeps without picking up his cell phone 3 times before falling asleep. Daniel wakes up at 6:15. The alarm rings. Normally, the first thing he'd reach for would be his cell phone. But today, something's different. He notices it's missing, and instead of running to get it, he sits on the edge of the bed. Breathe. Thank you for another day, Lord. Small, but intentional. He goes downstairs. He drinks coffee. His wife comments, "You seem calmer." He hadn't noticed, but she had. At work, the client sends an aggressive email, criticizing the project. Harsh tone. Before, Daniel would have responded in 5 minutes, defensive, tense. Today, he reads, closes the email, breathes, Epictetus in the head. It's not what happens to you, but how you react that matters. Philippians 4:8 in the heart, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right. He waits 30 minutes. He rewrites the answer 3 times. He sends something firm, but without venom. I understand your frustration. I will review the points you raised and get back to you tomorrow with an adjusted plan. Thank you for the direct feedback. The customer responds within an hour. Thank you for your seriousness. Daniel leans back in his chair. Something has changed. Not dramatically, but undeniably. He sticks to protocol. Not every night is perfect. Some nights, he forgets his notebook. Other nights, he writes in a rush, but even on imperfect nights, he does one thing. He delivers. Lord, today has been messy, but I surrender it to you. Renew my mind. And something starts to solidify. He notices he's less reactive in traffic. He argues less with his wife. He's slower to judge people. It's not that he became a saint. It's just that the gap between stimulus and response has increased. Viktor Frankl said, between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space lies our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and freedom. Daniel is expanding this space, night after night, thought after thought. 3 weeks later, something happens. He's reviewing the day. He writes, Virtuoso, I helped a colleague without expecting recognition. And you see, he didn't even think about it that day. He just did it. The inner habit is becoming the outer character. Aristotle would call this a virtue formed by practice. The Bible would call it the fruit of the Spirit, but the mechanism is the same. Intentional repetition shapes identity. He closes the notebook. Well, Father, thank you for not letting me give up. Keep renewing what I can't do on my own. And he sleeps, not as someone who is trying to be better, as someone who is becoming. Let me be straight about something. Stoicism is powerful. It teaches self-mastery, rationality, and a focus on what you can control. But it has its limits. Stoicism can teach you not to be a slave to your emotions, but it cannot heal the heart. Marcus Aurelius was one of the most disciplined men in history, and yet, in his writings, you sense loneliness, effort, exhaustion, because he was carrying everything alone. And before more traditional Christians get uncomfortable with Stoicism, let me say the opposite. Faith without practice becomes sentimentality. How many people say, I surrender everything to God, and then live anxious, reactive, and out of control? James 2:17 says, faith without works is dead. You can't just pray for self-control and then explode at your kids every night. You need to practice, review, adjust. What Daniel discovered, what the early church fathers knew, what is implied in Romans 12:2, is that transformation requires 2 movements. Human effort, you examine, you control, you discipline, you act. Divine grace, you surrender, you trust, you receive renewal that you cannot create alone. Paul didn't say, sit back and wait for God to renew your mind. He said, be transformed, active, by the renewing. Passive, God does bill of the mind. It's cooperation. Daniel isn't just sleeping better, he's becoming different. At work, firmer, less defensive. At home, more present, less irritated. In church, less superficial, more honest prayers. And when he fails, because we all do, he doesn't collapse in guilt or pretend it doesn't matter. He returns to the protocol. Where did I fail? What did I learn? What do I deliver? Confession without despair, adjustment without pride. But the biggest change isn't behavioral, it's internal. Daniel used to wake up with an unspoken question. What will go wrong today? Now wake up with something different. God, what are you going to do through me today? Small change of words. Huge change of posture, fear to trust, reactive to intentional, slave to free. So let's make this practical for you. Tonight, before you go to sleep, I want you to do 3 things. First, remove the noise. Keep your phone out of the bedroom, non-negotiable. You're protecting the last minutes of the day as sacred territory. Second, review honestly. Grab a piece of paper. 3 quick questions. Where did I act virtuously today? Where was I reactive? What is in my control tomorrow? 2 lines each. It doesn't have to be deep, it has to be honest. Third, declare and deliver. Speak softly or write, Lord, I have done what was within my control. I give you what was not. Renew my mind as I rest. Then 2 statements. I am disciplined in small choices. I choose peace over noise. This takes 7 minutes, maybe 10 if you go slowly. But those 10 minutes determine the next 8 hours of subconscious processing. Don't expect miracles the first night. You won't wake up a different person, but on the 3rd day you might notice, I respond 2 seconds slower when irritated. In the 2nd week, I wake up less anxious. In the 1st month, I recognize patterns that were previously invisible. Transformation is not a spectacle. It is erosion, drop by drop, thought by thought, night by night, and God honors that. Proverbs 16:3 says, Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and your plans will succeed. You consecrate the last minutes of your day. God works during the hours you sleep. The mind does not sleep. She works, she processes, she builds. The only question is, are you directing the work or just letting it happen? If you've watched this far, I know something in this message resonated. So don't let this be just another inspirational video you forget within 2 hours. Tonight, put this into practice. And if you'd like support on this journey, subscribe to the channel. Every week we explore how Stoicism and faith combine to transform mind, character, and life. Comment below. Which of the 3 night review questions will be the hardest for you to answer honestly? Let's walk this together. Your tomorrow is being planned today. Choose what to plant carefully.